questions, please do pop them into the questions section. If I can, I'll answer them along the way. Otherwise, I'll loop back to them at the end of the session, pick up the questions then and make sure you get all your answers. Obviously, looking to engage with each of you separately after this, so, any questions, pop them in there, and we can always give you a follow-up call if there's a more detailed response required. So I will launch straight in. As I said, thank you very much for attending today. It's an absolute pleasure to be talking to you. So just a brief introduction of myself. I'm Channel Manager for UK and Ireland here at Netwrix, and today I'm just going to introduce who Netwrix are and what we do, and how we do it, I guess. So without any further ado, let me see if I can actually switch the slide. Hold on a second. There we go. That looks better. So Netwrix. Who are we? Now, I completely empathize. You might not have heard this company name before. We're still relatively small here in the UK. However, have been in operation for the last 10 years and are headquartered in California. We've got over 8,000 customers to our name, so by no means a small company, but predominantly those customers tend to be in the US, and so, not particularly well known here in the UK. I spent a very long time in my life working for a large corporate vendor, and so I completely appreciate what it means to sell a really good quality product. And when I moved to a smaller vendor like Netwrix, it was really important to me that I was selling a product of quality, and so it is with well, with delight really, that I can tell you that we're one of the fastest growing companies and recognized as such in America, and have over 100 industry awards to our name. So that peer recognition and that industry recognition for the quality of the product speaks for itself, and I wanted to convey that to you to give you a sense of confidence, because when you're working with a company that maybe you haven't heard of before, it's always nice to know that you are working with a quality product and one that is recognized in the industry as such. So who are we and what do we actually do? Well, Netwrix Auditor, in essence, is a unified auditing platform that maximizes visibility of your customers' IT infrastructure. What we provide them is actionable audit information on who has changed what, when and where, and who's got access to what. Now, this is a marketing slide, but I really like this one because actually every single one of those words on that slide really counts. They all have particular resonance. But if there's one thing that you take away today, and if there's one thing that you remember about Netwrix as a product and what we do, it's that it's a fantastic tool for your customers to use to give them insight and visibility into what's going on within their IT infrastructure. Every customer out there, in some shape or form, has a security policy. But how do they know that that security policy is actually working out for them unless they've got the visibility into what's going on inside? And that's what Netwrix does for them. So in its most basic form, we are an auditing tool that will provide them with reporting for things like compliance. But on a much broader scale, we are give them an insight into their security strategy. So each one of those words on that page has meaning, and I'm going to come back to a couple of them, things like the unified auditing platform and things like actionable audit information. So hold that thought and I'll come back to you in a minute on those. There are lots of reasons why customers buy the product and why it's important to them. As an auditing platform, the most obvious one is for compliance reasons and for passing those audits, right? Yes, it does drive 40% of our sales, and so it is a primary motivator for customers when looking at products like this. So what we have done within the product, and it's ironic actually because it seems like a no-brainer, but our competitors haven't done it in the same way, is what we've done is we've pulled out our reports, and there's over 250 of those reports now. But in order to make compliance an easy task for people, what we've done is we've pulled out those reports and we've lumped them together. And so if you need to be PCI compliant or ISO compliant, GDPR compliant, we have sections within the product dedicated to those different regulatory compliance elements, where we've actually mapped the reports that we run to the elements of the compliance requirements that we can help them adhere to and show and demonstrate that compliance. Because after all, compliance isn't necessarily about being able to demonstrate that you're compliant today. Compliance is being able to demonstrate that you have been and will be into the future compliant against a certain criteria. And I think therein lies the challenge for a lot of customers, is being able to prove that compliance over a long period of time, and that's exactly what the product's designed to do. So being able to pull out and run reports literally at the push of a button takes them a few seconds, what sometimes, I mean, I've heard this anecdotally from many customers now, it takes them hours, sometimes days to run some of these reports. It is a massive time saver for them, but it's also huge peace of mind. Those reports then get saved or emailed to certain people in the organization, but even easier saved in a certain repository, there for review when the auditors come in at the end of the year. So compliance is a big driver for what we do. However, it's not the only one. Strengthening their security policies is another massive driver, and you'll hear people use that word visibility, and another key word that customers use is accountability. They need to know who's accountable for the changes that are being made within their IT infrastructure. In particular, if there are multiple IT teams, maybe in different locations, people interacting with their Active Directory, for example, they need to know who is the person responsible for the last change made in that group policy, for example. And sometimes that's quite hard to pull out of native reports. Either way, if it's not tricky, then at least it is time consuming. And so again, being able to give that visibility literally at the push of a button in an actionable, easy to read report, and when I say easy to read, I mean human readable rather than somebody who is you know, got a technical degree and understands the language. This is for people on an HR level, for example. As a non-technical person myself, I find these reports very easy to understand. So they are designed to be easy to read, to give the essential information that people need to pay attention to quickly. And so what we sometimes find is that people are layering a product like this with a SIEM solution, for example, which spits out an inordinate amount of data and lots of alerts, but to such a degree that people don't know what to pay attention to. So that word on that first screen, the actionable audit information, that's exactly what the product's designed to do, to give people the essentials that they need to pay attention to. So bridging that visibility gap and delivering security analytics about critical changes within their system and the state of those configurations and the data access that staff are having within your systems, it's really key information in today's environment, but not only for an on-premise environment, also for a cloud environment. So I'm going to come on to that in a little while again in more detail as well. Thirdly, but not any less important than the rest, is being able to optimize operations. Now, every IT department has their day job to do, and mostly that is dictated on whatever today's problem is. Most sysadmins, for example, are fighting fires every day. To be taken away from today's issue and then asked to run reports because HR has asked for them, because they've got a lead and they want to know what that person is accessing in terms of data on the system in that last 30 days before they go, because they're worried about data exfiltration. That's the last thing any sysadmin needs to be able to spend their time on. They need to be able to literally run a report and just say, HR, here you go, this is what you need to know. I've actually got a systems failure to deal with today, so I'm back to my day job. So, you know, sometimes money can buy you time. This is one of those type of products, and it proves to be invaluable for IT departments. So I've talked a little bit about Netwrix as a platform. And this slide kind of demonstrates exactly how the product works in more detail. So when we talk about Netwrix Auditor, we talk about Netwrix Auditor as the product, and in actual fact that is what the customer is going to install. What they're going to use, however, is a number of different applications sitting within that platform, and they will then purchase a license according to what they actually need to use. By doing it this way, I'm not going to charge them for a whole bunch of stuff that they're never going to use and therefore spend money that they don't need to. I'm going to make this a cost-effective product by selling them the applications that have relevance to them and add value to their lives. In reality, there are 12 different applications on the screen in front of you. This is what makes up Netwrix Auditor. They will license themselves for the ones that are relevant to them. Active Directory, Windows File Server, and Windows servers tend to be the three applications that the majority of our customers take in combination. Not everybody, for example, has an EMC or a NetApp environment. Definitely only a minority of customers have Oracle, for example. So those applications are in there with very specific reports and functionality for those customers who require it. But in essence, this is a very Microsoft heavy stack, and it speaks to those customers. I mentioned cloud functionality earlier. Again, we're ahead of the curve of our competitors on this one. We are heavily skewing our roadmap towards cloud integrations. So this becomes a product that you can use both on-premise and in the cloud, and for those hybrid combinations. So not only do we have an on-premise Active Directory reporting functionality, we've also got Azure Active Directory. We've got Office 365 for those who've moved their Exchange into the cloud, and we also have SharePoint Online functionality and reports. So for those customers who are making that migration into the cloud, and there are a lot of them, we have that functionality covered already. As I said, there are competitive products out there. They're still catching up onto this concept, and most of them don't even have it on the roadmap for a clear delivery until at least the middle of next year. So that's a nice place to be for us. I'm rather pleased and rather proud, but it also gives you a sense of confidence, right, being able to position the right product for your customers, knowing that you've got that future-proofing perhaps in place already. There was something else I was going to mention and I've forgotten, so I will move on. So in essence, those applications can be bought in any combination. The minute those customers, there are bundled pricing involved, and so we welcome multiple applications. There are discounts involved for those customers who want to take more than one module. For you as the reseller, what's in it for you? Here I am, a vendor you've never heard of before, perhaps, touting my product, but what's in it for you? I'm really pleased to say this is a growing market. The increase in sales over the last 12 to 18 months for us has been huge, which is why we're reaching out proactively to channel partners saying, help us, we need to sell this product to your customers. There's a lot of interest out there, but we can't do it by ourselves. So we want to buddy up with you. We've brought on E92 as our distributor to help us with that, and it is through partnership with yourselves that we intend to take this product to market. With GDPR on the horizon, this is going to be a massive topic for customers over the next 12 months. Auditing is not so much a nice to have anymore, it's very much an essential, and things like GDPR are driving that requirement. So I'm pleased to say we are already part of the way there in terms of getting the GDPR functionality embedded within the product. I have the mapping documents of the reports that they need to be able to run and exactly how we assist customers with elements of that GDPR requirement. The catch-up part where we're still putting effort in is to actually get that mapped into the product so that there's a dedicated section. So that's still coming, but the reports are all there. It's just a case of we need to pull those reports out manually at this stage. So come Q1, we'll have that all embedded within the product. But because things like GDPR are driving these audit-led and compliance-led conversations, this is a market that's getting increasing focus. And for the majority of your customers, this is a greenfield product. You are not going to be swapping something out. They don't already have something like this in place. And as a salesperson, that's a gift, right? It's so lovely to be able to sell something completely fresh and new to your customer rather than going in there with a swap-out conversation. The sales cycle also tends to be quite short. Customers really like this product. Once they've seen it, they can see the value instantly. It shows its return very obviously. On average, our deals close within a 90-day window. There are obviously a few anomalies to this. The larger the customer, the longer the sales cycle tends to be. If they want to put in a complicated evaluation process, that's also going to lengthen the sales cycle. But once they've seen it, established that they like it and that it adds value, as long as they have budget, that deal will close almost instantly because it's priced very fairly. It tends to fit budget, and as a result, customers like what they see and they buy. So within 90 days, in other words, within the same quarter you've identified that lead, you could be closing this opportunity. Again, that's a bit of a gift for most salespeople. It's definitely been an eye-opener for me. I've never dealt with a product that sells this quickly before, so it's a real pleasure. In terms of overheads, this is not a product that's going to cost you a lot to sell to your customers. It tends to sell off the back of a 1-hour pre-sales demo, which we tend to deliver by WebEx. So we will take that burden for you at this stage. Obviously, I would love for my resellers to skill up and be able to offer that as a demo themselves to their customers, but I appreciate in the early stages this is something that we will shoulder for you. But that demo tends to seal the deal, and we've had people commit off the back of that there and then. So again, it's not going to cost you much to sell, which is also rather pleasant, right? In terms of consultancy, it's not a very complicated product. Customers do tend to install this themselves. However, you are quite free to offer that as consultancy, installation consultancy yourselves. But I think the broader consultancy opportunities around the topic of compliance, data security, auditing, ISO, compliance, etc. I think the consultancy opportunities for Netwrix fall into those more broad categories. So something to consider if you're not already involved in those type of customers with your conversations with your customers. I've had a number of conversations recently where resellers are wanting to offer compliance as a service. So that's something else to consider. Revenue-wise, it comes with good margins. I've got to make it attractive for you if you're going to sell it, right? So, so there's good margins. Speak to E92 about the partner program and where you fit into that. And I'm really pleased to say the renewals are very dependable, 92% renewal rate. So, again, that speaks to the quality of the product. The customer satisfaction rates are really, really high. Once you've sold it to them, they will renew it. You know, 92% speaks for itself. And again, as a salesperson, it's nice to know that you are selling a product that your customers are going to like to use. It's not going to come back and bite you in the bum. So that customer satisfaction is really important. In terms of who to take this to market to, you're already speaking to prospects. Every single one of your customers is a potential prospect. It is quite a Microsoft-centric product stack, so you know any of your Microsoft-centric organizations are potential customers. There are certain obvious targets because of the compliance you know, requirements that they might have, so certain industry verticals like healthcare, finance and banking, education and government, they tend to be more heavily regulated, and therefore products like this resonate very highly with them. In reality though, every single one of your customers is likely to benefit from the visibility that we can give them into their infrastructure. Knowledge is key, right? So it's one of those products that I think you could probably take to the majority of your customers and get a level of interest from. I'm not going to say each one of them is going to buy it, but you will definitely get a level of interest from them. And in terms of who to pitch it to within the organization, this product resonates right from the bottom up. So your IT admin guys love it because of the time it saves them. Your IT security guys love it because of the insight that it gives them into what's going on, and it helps them pin down things like data access and things like, you know, who was the last person to access that file, make changes, delete it, etc. So, you know, your risk management guys, your CISOs, this resonates on every level. If you've ever been asked to supply an IT auditing software product but not known who to suggest, please do come and talk to me. Go back and revisit those customers who might have spoken to you in the past and you drew a bit of a blank. If you've ever asked to supply Varonis before but not closed that deal because of the high cost, do come back and chat to me. I love to sell against Varonis. There's really good reasons why customers buy Varonis, but it is an expensive product, and there's really good reasons why we would be a fantastic alternative for them. So again, if you've ever been asked to quote Varonis but not closed the deal, I would love to come back and revisit those opportunities with you. If you've ever been asked to help with reports for investigations like what caused a service outage, that tends to be a really time-consuming operation. Netwrix is designed to give answers to those type of questions. So come back and chat to us if you find yourself in those situations with customers regularly. And things like remediate problems and restore operations, ransomware attacks, for example. Again, Netwrix gives valuable information into what's going on within your infrastructure, so when ransomware attacks happen, we can help you go and remediate those quickly. And again, if you are being asked to outsource services, if you are an outsourced IT provider and you need to cover your back because there's IT teams at the customer and your team is also making changes, who was the person who made the change that then failed and caused that outage, or whatever the situation may be? It is a fantastic product to go and cover your back and to provide that level of accountability. In terms of licensing, just because it's relevant to know, I don't want to cover this in much detail. Netwrix is a perpetual-based license, so year one looks more expensive because what you're selling them is the software together with maintenance and support. For us, support is 24/5, so they get a great level of support, and we tend to do one minor and one major release a year. The value that goes into those releases is huge. I've seen the product change massively in the last 12 months. Customers, again, they're very happy with the product, they renew their product, and obviously it's quite cost effective to renew it because they've paid up front for it, and they're just renewing their maintenance and support in year 2 and beyond. So what I recommend is always quote a 3-year option to them so that they can see their long-term costs. Quoting just year 1 tends to look quite expensive. You need to give them the longevity of those costs. Yes, we do multi-year bundles, and there's discounts involved in that. And as I mentioned before, customers tend to take a combination of modules, right? So the minute they've taken more than 3 applications, there are built-in discounts for that. It's only 5% at 3 modules, but it's 10% at 4 modules, 15% at 5 modules. So the more they are interested in covering within their network, the more cost-effective it becomes to bundle things together. And what is quite common is that customers will take maybe 2 or 3 modules to start off with, and then 6 to 12 months down the line say, do you know what, we really want to add Exchange to this, or we've decided we want to add in SQL and VMware. Absolutely, I will very happily sell them a license for those additional modules, and what we will do then is we will co-terminate that to their existing license so that everything is kept sort of neat and tidy for renewal purposes. It's worth knowing that our entry-level license is 150 users, which would make you think that this is for medium-sized customers and above, and cancels out the smaller section of SMB. Don't believe that for a second. I have sold this to customers 30, 40 users in size. The product is designed to be cost effective, and so therefore that entry-level price for 150 users, while it might sound like a big jump for a 50 user size customer, come back and talk to us about their pricing, because I can guarantee you it's not necessarily going to put them off. What I would say for the smaller customers under 150 users is don't tell them that you're selling a 150 user license, just position it as this is your entry-level price with room to grow. So there you go. But yeah, just worth knowing that that entry-level pricing is 150 users. And I've already mentioned that, so moving on. So in terms of next steps, obviously, please do contact your account manager at E92 to get more information or a quote. I'm pretty sure, as I've been chatting, you've had at least one customer in mind that you think this would be suitable for. Do come back and chat to us about that. We'd love to get involved. There are numerous ways to have a look at the products. I encourage each and every one of you to schedule a one-on-one demo with an SE to show you what the product looks like. I think it is in seeing the product and understanding the value that the reports give that you can then very effectively position that back to your customers. So I do encourage you all to come back and chat to us about that. However, you can do a 20-day free trial, download that off our website and test it in your own environment. If you don't have the time for that, you want to see the product in a test drive environment. We do have a test drive functionality, which is like a virtual POC that we host. So again, you access that off our website, and then you can have a sort of a look and a play with the product before committing to any installations. We do a lot of webinars, so again, this is a specific channel focused webinar just to tell you about who we are and how we work, but if there are any particular topics, there is a webinar section on our website with pre-recorded webinars that you can go and access, and again, you're very welcome to access any of those, but come back and ask us questions and we'll be happy to talk you through everything. So therein endeth the lesson. I'm just going to check and see whether we've got any questions. If you've got any questions, do pop them in the questions section now, and I'll very gladly go over those. But otherwise, I'll just give you a little moment of time to tap away. If not, then give your account manager at E92 a call. We'll get a session set up over the phone where we can chat, and I'll gladly talk through any questions you might have then. So I'm not seeing any questions at the moment.
Thanks for that, Nikki. I've actually had quite a few questions coming through whilst we've been on the call. Some of them have been quite detailed questions, asking a lot around kind of like how you release updates and how often, those sort of questions. But what I have advised back is that if anyone needs a lot of information like that, we can set up a one-to-one call after the webinar. So again, just for everyone else, I think it's important to mention that if anyone needs a one-to-one webinar, Nikki can make some time in the diary whenever you've got availability, and we can go over those things in a bit more detail, because I know there's a lot of questions that have come through.
Okay, no, that's great. Excellent. Well, in that case, I will sign off and say thank you very much for your time, and I hope the session was useful and provided you with a little bit more information. And yeah, keep those questions coming, and we'll chat offline. Thanks very much, everybody.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, everyone, for attending today, and yeah, we'll catch up.